welcome back. We're TPKhaos. I'm Billy. This is the gang. We're going to talk about what we want to see next from Wizards of the Coast. Any thoughts?
Yeah, they should have included classes, at least one or two of them.
I agree.
Already in the playtest material they sent us. They did not. It makes me worry that they're not going to update the classes at all. And they're just going to kind of like push out a bunch of crap that goes around them. So
I would like to see some original classes, but I can't quite wrap my mind around like what else.
They said one. They're going to do one brand new one.
Like what?
I don't.
They haven't said
say
anything about it. They're just like, we're going to create one new class.
Because you have your spiritual, your fighter, couple fighter classes now. You know,
oh, you have more than you'd have to like. It'd be a mix.
Here's one that I've heard of that I think could be interesting. A fan made one that I've seen called the Plague Doctor, but you could do something just called the Apothecary. Where it's a
he played a plague doctor already once.
Yeah,
before.
I have played a plague doctor.
But like, I mean something like
I don't think
physical healing thing where you have med kits and stuff like that. You don't use magic.
Kind of like a version of an artificer.
Yeah, but
a little
it's like
different because I do have always felt they could have done a little better on the artificer.
I feel like there's when they consider physical classes, like non-magical classes, they always go default to weaponry, and I'm like, you have other things. You could do a trades build character, and a medic, a field medic would be a great one. They still have to train in combat, but that could be an interesting one.
They need another healing support class. Because think about it, you have the cleric, and what else actually specifically excels at healing the party?
The paladin. The
paladin does not excel at healing a party.
It heals itself.
It heals itself mostly, and then bards kind of, but they're not a really like mainly healing class.
But yeah, if you put like a cleric against every other thing in terms of healing, the cleric's going to win hands down.
That's their main role, yeah.
But you need another one of those, though.
You really should have another one that focuses on physical materials.
Every time I do think or play as a cleric, I never choose a healing role. Whenever I think of a cleric,
that is funny.
It's always damage, stacking damage on top of each other.
You always want the Twilight or Tempest.
Tempest cleric, my favorite subclass, will never not be my favorite.
Yeah. That is.
That's not technically a healer, though. That's just you playing
it's not a
paladin that does Tempest.
That's a power build.
I'm making a power build with what? Tempest cleric and a warlock where I just
and a sorcerer meta magic, so you can turn fireballs into lightning bolts and just get max damage.
But I do Witch Bolt. It's already automatically upcasted and do the thing that Tempests can do, just automatic full damage on lightning and thunder damage, and there you go. Just dish out just huge amounts of damage.
I feel like what I've been saying a lot kind of applies to this, where it's like the whole game is very combat oriented. If they introduce classes that obviously have combat skills, because you have to have that in Dungeons and Dragons, but if they build classes that aren't as focused on combat and focused on other things like, just basic utility or healing or just social interactions, that could make the game a lot more diverse and interesting and allow for power builds outside of combat.
A lot of the rogues and the bards can get proficiencies in almost every ability.
Yes.
I feel like
one of the bard's abilities,
there.
the jack of all trades, is they get half proficiency in literally any skill that they have no proficiency in.
But that's like my main complaint is like every time I think of a character who's not necessarily a combat build class, it's the bard, because the bard is a jack of all trades. The bard can do everything, and yes, the rogue can too, but the rogue is far more likely to get into combat because they're just natural thievery or their backstabbiness, even if it's not literal stabby.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're still going to get in trouble and have to get in scuffles and stuff. And I'm thinking like, give me something that I feel like I said, the medic. That could be an interesting one where they're on the field of battle, but they're not necessarily meant for combat.
Isn't that just kind of the healer feat?
I mean,
kind of, but like, what if that became a whole class?
That's what I was thinking.
It'd be interesting to see like some type of tradesman class where like they're able to interact with combat in different ways by giving support more.
I think they're on the One D&D, they did try to touch on that with using your tool proficiencies. If you use that tool proficiency and you do a skill check using that tool, you get advantage.
Yes.
Isn't that how that rule worked?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you had
So,
proficiency
I
with a
wanted to
tool, that you
explore
got
that. I didn't
advantage.
get the
I
chance.
did like that. It's a little bit deeper of mechanics, maybe slightly complicated in gameplay, but it seemed like a really good idea in that it would
I also
be
noticed that they
thematically
buffed crafting a lot, where they could. It's a whole lot easier for you to craft things, and they have
Not
actual.
a lot. I think they just notched that down a little bit.
Yeah, but
because
like,
if I was doing that
they-
in my home games, I would pull that back.
They explained
anyway.
it a lot better than what I knew as like a fairly new person to D&D. I didn't like. I knew you could craft stuff, but I didn't really know how.
Yeah,
But-
if you look up the official rules, you might be spending 100 days on like a rare magic item trying to create that or something.
Okay, but moving on from classes, what else do we want to see? Because, I feel like we've already said that a lot
wanna
in
see-
multiple videos.
I want to see weapons being more useful. For instance, like say, all right, you're a barbarian, so now you have to use the battle axe or the greatsword. You have to. That's max damage. You have to do it. We've had players using whips, sickles. Why can't that whip, like, say if you could build a skill tree off of weapons with your proficiency. So, like with the whip, now you can swing on it. You can take
You
the
can
fly action if there's something to hook your whip to. Or you can push somebody or pull somebody back towards you.
I mean,
or
you
if you,
can
I pushed
technically,
somebody
it's just
with a
more
whip
role play than it is. Because
But
it wouldn't have
I-
a mechanic base to
but
it.
it
But
doesn't
it
have a
could.
mechanic
It would
base,
need
and it
one,
needs a
yeah.
mechanic base to it.
And yeah, that's one of the things that I think could be really interesting is improving weapons to make them as viable as spells. Because now that, I've been thinking about it recently, martial classes are the better class at lower levels, but the spellcasters become the better at later
Oh
levels.
man, you get
for
up
the
around
most part. There are
8,
times where
9,
it's
10,
not always
11, the spellcasters really take
and
off.
the real issue with that, or the reason that's so prominent, is because casters get more powerful spells and spell slots the higher level they go. Martial classes don't get that. Instead, they get their feats and features, but imagine like
They're
if,
assuming
imagine
you're
if-
going to find magical items throughout the adventure.
Yeah,
so
but
they
they're
are
imagine
giving
if
glass.
your weapon,
They are
imagine-
glass cannons too, so there's a give and a take with that extra bit of power,
But
and
imagine
you can
if
run
like
out.
imagine if like bard, because bards are probably the weirdest one of them all, where they can be martial or caster. Imagine if a martial bard could be just as prominent as a casting bard at later levels, because they can upcast that weapon, whatever that would take, like your skill tree thing. Like that could be an interesting way to kind of increase your ability with a weapon. If you continue to use that weapon and you get better and better with it, it's similar to how you get new spells and higher spell slots where you can.
Yeah, that'd be kind of
theoretically-
cool. That way you could refine each character. If you take, I am going to be the master of the longsword.
Yeah.
So then now you have like a couple like super slash abilities or something associated with that longsword.
Imagine if you or
kind of like the feats do, slasher feat. But I got the longsword, so now when I crit, I get 3 die.
or imagine if
That would kind of counter how bad the crits are because you're specialized in that weapon. But
No,
if you're
no,
using anything
regardless,
else,
you fix the crits first, and then you add the more on to it. Like,
True.
fix the crits.
fix the crits. We hate it.
Here's another concept that I just came up with of like, what if the more times you attack in a row with a weapon, something happens. Imagine if you're like a fighter who's like, you have 4 attacks, but you need 5 to do a thing. You might have a bonus action for like second wind or whatever, but imagine if you might be like, well, if I get that 5th attack, I could do some sort of extra special thing. If I could throw my bonus action attack into that instead.
Like
That could be
you
interesting.
Stun them at the end of the
Yeah. Well, I always thought
blaze
it was
of
weird because, like,
attacks.
say you have a small knife or a dagger, right? And you stab someone a bunch of times, they should be bleeding. You should have inflicted a status effect by the weapon you're using. If you smash someone off the head with a great hammer, they should be stunned after a certain amount of attacks. Like, I feel like there's a way to build in utility to a weapon without, like, you guys having to basically remake 100 and whatever weapons are in D&D.
Like if you look at the
Yeah.
double-bladed scimitar, which is one of my favorite weapons in D&D, it's really cool because of its 2 blades. You're able to do a bonus action attack.
Is it?
Even
It
though it's
has a
only-
built-in. Yeah,
It has a
utility.
built-in ability, which is really cool. Even though it can't get upgraded, it's still a really cool weapon all by itself.
But that's like the only vanilla weapon that has that, though. I'm pretty sure. Everything
Besides-
else is like considered a magic weapon and up.
yeah.
And I guess that's the way they balanced it. They just didn't want to give normal weapons good stuff because then who wants magic weapons anymore?
Well,
Me?
you could
You'd have
still
to
have
buff,
that magic weapon, but your skill proficiency in that weapon would open up an ability to
I mean-
combo on top of the magic weapon.
mean,
But
it's
you'd
the
have to
same-
rework all of it, though. You'd have to like go all the way up the line with it.
No,
Well,
you
I
could
mean,
just
it's-
add whatever +2 magic sword, or if you got a flame tongue, you get the extra 2d6 on that attack. But now with the extra 2d6, you got your weapon damage, flame tongue,
And then
and
whatever
you can
that,
like get an extra special ability.
Remember, that's a blue. That's a rare. Now, what would you give like a wondrous or like a legendary in that same field, though? Because now you're murking the waters a little bit with.
Well, you're thinking about it being like a magical weapon or associated to that. You're not. It's a skill.
yeah.
You know,
so
what-
you could use that with any weapon. Period. The end.
Like,
it doesn't
what-
have to be a magical
What
one.
skill level would you put getting you action surge? You know, that doubles your strength
legendary
right then and there.
action. If,
And you
if
get
like
that
they
at
had like
level 2.
skill, like
Yeah.
like you would say, you would rate your skills. Rage and action surge would be like legendary, like golden freaking abilities. Whereas like
Honestly,
rogues would be a common.
I understand it would probably make martial classes a little more complex than they need to be, but I feel like if the fighter and rogue got basically a skill tree that works, similar
being
to
a
spells.
skill tree, you could start out super
that
simple.
would allow a
and
lot more for role playing too, because then you could figure out which skills you want more than like
Yes.
what feats and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But this goes into what we were talking about on the way over here. It feels like from 3.5, those who played 3.5 to 5, they dumbed down a lot of the mechanics. And
did.
it feels like they're dumbing it down even more for 6th edition or whatever they end up calling it. And so for them to like turn around and like make, I guess we would say, the skill ceiling to play D&D like up here, they might get less people playing it, even though really the people who enjoy it will just learn.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I like the streamlined rules. I
like-
think it makes the game flow a little easier. And I played 3.5 and it got a little clunky
Well, it
once
was
in a
clunky,
while.
but you remember the giant fat book you had for like just like the feats and like the extra stuff you can add on there? There was
Oh,
like a
yeah.
tome that went with 3.5. That is gone. There was nothing even
A
close to that.
5.0, you can buy a stack of books that tall.
Yeah.
I'm talking one book, not a library. It's going to cost as much as my car.
And it will.
Yep.
What else we
Yeah.
got?
What would you want to see in the future?
More upfront rules, like more clear rules. Like I'll just be like sitting through like any of the handbooks, be looking at a rule, I'm like, what? And I'll have to like look up other people's interpretations of
Yes.
Rules
it. Like I
ordering, yeah.
hate that.
We had that with the animating armor.
I'm still right about that. I don't care what anyone says. You all are idiots.
He says Jeremy Crawford is wrong.
Jeremy Crawford, you are wrong. Read the rules that they wrote.
You
And
were
it's
not
like-
wrong. You were right.
And it's like people, like so much people get so confused about it that they would have to like tweet at Gary Gygax just to figure out what the heck the rule is. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah. Yeah, I would very much. That was actually something I was hoping for. If they would clarify the elves trance, and they did.
Which
not
trance?
not the new trance, the trance that's been there for a long time now. Their ability to like not sleep technically, whatever that is. A lot of people that I've met now have said that no, just because you get that 4 hours of trance, you still have to do the 8 hours of stuff because of the wording of how long rest works. It's not like that. And they've clarified that in the new playtest material where they said after the 4 hours of trance, you are good. That is equivalent to a long rest. And they have not, and
Which
they've
is
clarified.
also kind of useless unless you're with an entire party of
No,
elves.
no. So
not entirely,
who-
because imagine if you're a hunter, you're the main source of food for everybody. 4
Great,
hours
you
of
can
rest.
go out on your own in the
And
dark
die.
forest in the middle of the night. That's
I
awesome.
mean, you got dark vision.
But I mean,
Yeah, you'll be
yes,
fine.
Yes, but also consider this: 4 hours of rest. I've run it like this. I've had people run it like this for me in the past. 4 hours of rest is all you need. You can take the rest of those 4 hour shift and nobody cares. Like, you can be the watch for the rest of the night. It's similar to the Warforged where, once they're done,
rest.
Yeah, once they're done, they could basically be watching the whole time.
They're semi-conscious.
Yeah, so it's a similar concept where, once that trance is done, you can, use it for other things. And I appreciate the fact that they finally clarified that it doesn't take the 8 hours. What did you roll?
A 1.
No, that's a 7. That's a 7.
But most people don't use it right, though, because think about it.
True.
What if an artificer was an elf, had trance, and then they spent 4 hours making whatever they wanted to each and every night?
Oh, yeah, that combined with ritual
how
caster?
to use the skills you're given.
Yes.
Whose fault is that? That's on the player for not knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Man. That's not the rules problem.
Yeah.
Huh? Because I can be just pumping out magic items every 4 hours for as much as I want. Well, within the rules.
Another example of like the rules thing that I was saying is like, I was trying to look at like passive perception because I was a little confused on how to calculate it. So I was looking at it through the book, and it's like, it doesn't like flat out say it.
Does it not?
Only gives you like an example of it. And it's like the word play is like so tricky with it.
Yeah, sometimes you got to look up several different layers deep till you figure out what exactly this rule
which
is.
I hate that. Like
coming
if,
at,
if you give me an ability on a character sheet, I should know how to calculate that.
Which I know how to calculate.
You shouldn't just confuse me about it. Well, yeah, I know. I understand how it works now.
All right, our time is up.
Oh.
So, thanks for joining us. Let us know in the comments what you think, what you like, what you didn't like about the new One D&D rules. And like and subscribe because, you love us and we need the help. Help me.
Help us,
please. We're dying. Will hit me more if we don't get more views.
He's going to kill us.
I'll hit him a lot more if we do get views. I mean, if you wanted to go that route too, I mean, we can just do that. No?
He's slowly putting cyanide in our drinks.
I do that anyway. Don't worry about that. No.
It's healthy. Right. Don't worry about it.
These people are crazy. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for checking out today's video. We post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for more glorious D&D content. Please like, comment, subscribe, throw it all down below. We always appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week.